Thank you, Mike, for our new countdown thing.
Yeah, that was awesome.
So, welcome to Marvel Time. How you doing, Mac?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. What we got this week?
We got some fun new comics again, and of course, we'll touch on the news from the past week in Marvel. Want to jump right back into Ten of Swords?
Sure, why not? So, Excalibur number 13.
Yeah.
Did you read the order this time?
I did, yes. Made sure I got them in the right order. Although, of course, this week it didn't really seem like that was necessary. They were pretty much two completely different stories entirely, aside from maybe like one panel at the end of one of them.
Yeah. So I don't know. What do you think?
So this is probably what I think like the third, maybe the second or third Excalibur comic we've done since we started doing this, and I think this is the one title in the X universe that really throws me for a loop. There's just so much different stuff going on. There's some great characters for sure. I think Jamie Braddock is one of the most entertaining characters in this overall story here,
Right.
but. Yeah, it's just a very complex, and I mean, just at times it's just straight up confusing, everything that's going on. What do you think?
I'm with you. I kind of felt like it was for a character that doesn't have a cultural staying power of Captain Britain. They just take it in such weird directions all the time. And just hard. Now, if you're a major Captain Britain fan, maybe this all makes sense to you. But there's just a lot of Captain Britons. There's a lot of backstory in this that is sort of tangential to the backstory we've already been dealing with.
Right.
Like when we get to the other guy, like Apocalypse, we kind of have an understanding of who he is just from existence. Between the movies and the cartoons, so. You can go a little deeper with him. Captain Britain, I just don't think ever had that sort of, was never like an all-star comics character in their own right. Like a Deadpool is probably most famous from comics, but he was everywhere. So I kind of knew who he was. Captain Britain's kind of the one that pops in every once in a while when they want to make a comic book seem international. And it just... And it didn't connect, and besides the fact that it has swords in it, it just felt very tangential to the sort of nice pattern we got into of a story about finding a sword.
Right.
And so, yeah, it wasn't my favorite of the week.
Yeah, especially when we get into different Captain Britons that are like not from this dimension. They're from like a different reality. So, yeah, like you said, just a whole lot going on there. It is still that story about, one or two more of the champions getting their swords and getting ready for the fight, but it's also so much more going on than the previous stories we've seen like that. So yeah definitely a little too complicated for my liking.
So that moves into your written view of the week.
Yeah, X-Men number 13, and this gets us back to Apocalypse, which I was really excited about. I do have one, again, with this very large, complex story. See, when these other individual stories, it's been pretty much contained to one or two issues. We had Wolverine in over two different issues fighting to get his sword. We had Storm fighting to get her sword. And this is what's happening with Apocalypse. However, because he's so tied into the history of this story and the story as a whole, we get so much more context when the issue focuses on Apocalypse. And this has been, what now? The last time we saw Apocalypse for real, aside from just laying on what I guess is a mutant operating table, that was weeks ago. So we got the little bits and pieces of his story weeks ago at this point. We've been all over the place otherwise. It's kind of hard to follow where this story is going. And again, I find myself having to kind of push away, like, just don't worry about the details, just kind of enjoy the story as it's going. So again, it's a lot to gain in one issue, but there's also a lot to enjoy because Apocalypse is a fantastic character.
Yeah, I think the fact it's Apocalypse sort of saves the story, because one is you kind of know he's like this. So at the basic, if you know he's like this Omega level mutant who has this sort of Egyptian past and has these children and horsemen and the whole Genesis component to it, like it makes a little bit more sense and it's a little bit more accessible than a character like Captain Britain. Like we talked about it, like I felt like last week we had some, like I would say, more accessible mutants. And it's one thing to make your villain omnipotent, but when it's your lead character, it just becomes non-grounded. And but just me.
Yeah, and they have been like to use your analogy, they've kind of been grounding Apocalypse. He hasn't been that sort of overpowered character that he has been in the past. With him basically recovering from injuries this entire time. But they also give you that sort of post-credit feel type of moment in this one where you see what is happening and you see what's going to happen in the future, and you're like, yes, all right, I'm ready for this. Let's get to that. And so it did get me excited again for Ten of Swords, like so many of these other issues have. And I mean, I like I've been saying from the beginning, I'm really excited to see what Apocalypse does in this story.
You know what this issue made me realize? I miss the X-Men in my X-Men. Like, I mean, there's a little bit of it, but there's no like team getting together. It's all like it's a mutant story. It's not the X-Men story. I mean, I know it's obviously you're talking about titles and stuff. It's not really relevant, but it's all about this. It's just a different way of looking at the X-Men, which is probably good because we've done the X-Men forever as they have been. But and the Brian Michael Bendis run, where really took it into school and and stuff. But in the end, if with the exception maybe Wolverine, I mean, you're not talking like the top level X-Men characters are not really being used here, and so it's definitely a different story. But yeah, I like we're getting into sort of the one shot next week, which probably will move the goalpost a little bit further down the line in Stasis. So I'm hoping that this is kind of the transition, because I think we only have 3 more swords to get.
Well, I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, I mean, it seems like maybe it's 2.
Okay, kind of depends on. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
So you ready to leave the X-Men universe?
Yeah. We can move on to Fantastic Four.
I have that image someplace.
I believe this is Fantastic Four number 25, if I am remembering correctly.
Yeah.
And this one is still kind of dealing with the aftermath of Empire, right? I mean, this is, and interestingly, Fantastic Four is really the only series that's seemed,
So Guardians of the Galaxy this week bills itself as an Empire aftermath issue.
Okay.
It wasn't on our list, but yeah, it kind of feels like, I was thinking about this comparing Ten of Swords to Empire. Empire is like the event where nothing happens, and Ten of Swords is the event where everything happens.
Right.
And it kind of was like a little bit in the middle. The one thing I do like of Ten of Swords is that like there's definitely chronology. Sometimes in events you have no idea, like there's no sort of rhyme or reason where the tie-ins fall in or whatnot.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like probably Fantastic Four. I mean, just because of Dan Slott, and then Fantastic Four with Guardians with Al Ewing. It probably makes sense that they're like the sort of aftermath issues. But I mean, this is also a big 25 issues. It's got some little extra magic in there. Yeah, and actually, the second story, sort of the first B story, I really liked.
Oh, yeah, I do want to get to that too, because I have some questions, I guess. But yeah, just to start off with the main story, it does feel like the biggest consequence of Empire has been the introduction of the Skrull and Kree child to the Fantastic Four. And sorry, I can't remember their Kree and Skrull names off the top of my head. I know it's like Jory or something. I can't remember off the top of my head. But their introduction to the Fantastic Four has been fun. I like the dynamic of the Thing as the dad. So that's interesting. I liked this issue mostly because two reasons. There's this mysterious threat that we almost learned pretty much nothing about. But I'm very interested to see what role that's going to play, or if it's going to play a role in anything moving forward. And then also the involvement of Doctor Doom, who is just one of my all-time favorite characters, and he is so Doctor Doom in this comic. So some really fun moments there. What did you think?
This is my pick of the week. I like. Maybe it's just because I started reading the X-Men issues and then just having like the family component. I love the dynamic between Reed and Sue here. I love Doctor Doom. I love Doctor Doom interacting with Franklin in his own way. I love Frank. Franklin to me was always sort of a fascinating character.
Yeah,
and absolutely. I think they're setting up more exploration into him. And so you're right. The threat is sort of irrelevant, but at least, at this point, some big, crazy bad guy. But I just liked having the gang back together, struggling with the sort of family. It's the stuff that makes the Fantastic Four, the superhero family. And, that's what made Marvel. And I like it, with Empire, we sort of had them split off into two different books, but they're best when they're interacting with each other in some shape or form.
Yeah, agreed. And for the record, we are on the same page again this week. This is also my pick of the week. Like I said, just Doctor Doom had some great moments. Franklin, again, is a fascinating character. I agree. Some interesting things going on with his powers and his mutant lineage. So interested to see where this goes going forward. And again, like I said, this huge alien threat that may or may not be a thing. I'm very curious to know what's going on with that as well.
I am. It's, but one of the fun things about these sort of milestone issues, which it seems like there's like 12 a week now, is the sort of extra bonus stuff. And the Nick Fury Watcher element that they've been basically teeing up since Original Sin, gazillion years ago, it feels like, is to me exciting.
Yeah, it's definitely cool. I'm a little bit confused as to where this is happening. There's a lot. Nick Fury plays a role in this main story as well, and
so I don't know if you read Original Sin, but basically that's where Nick Fury's son, who looks like Samuel L. Jackson, became like the main Nick Fury. And Nick Fury, the one that we knew, sort of OG Nick Fury, murdered the Watcher.
Okay.
And so as his, through the events for whatever reason, then they, at the end of the story, basically he is punished to be the new Watcher stuck on the moon, and called like the Unseen. And he's the one that's supposed to kind of keep everything together. And it involved the Winter Soldier. It was a whole big story. But basically, he was the new Watcher. So now you have, because he needed the Watcher's eye, was the reason he killed the Watcher. And so now you have a one-eyed Watcher, a one-eyed Nick Fury, kind of trying to figure out where to go from here. So it kind of restores a little bit of the original Nick Fury ethos to it, while not erasing the Nick Fury that was introduced in, what was the name of that comic? I forget. There was a whole comic. It's where I also introduced Phil Coulson. So I'm a sucker for Nick Fury. I'm a sucker for any Nick Fury, and so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious to see how this plays out, because you got the Watcher kind of rebooting his memory, I guess. Yeah. And that was, by the way, some really awesome art featured in those last couple pages. So definitely worth checking that out. And like really taking the time to look through the details, because there's just a lot of different Marvel history kind of throughout those panels.
And then speaking of milestone issues.
Yeah, Spider-Woman number 5/100.
Because that's the way we do.
Yep. Okay. I like this issue a lot. I love Spider-Woman as a character. However, we didn't do Spider-Man number 4, or Spider-Woman number 4, sorry. So this throws you right into a story that if you did not read even the page previous, you're going to be a little bit lost. So there's a lot going on there. This is an action-packed comic too, so you'll blow through it like that. It's a whole lot of fighting really through, I don't know, 90% of the main story. It's enjoyable. Jessica Drew is a great character. This plays a lot on her past and her history. So if you know the character, you can at least understand and like have an idea of what's going on. But I wouldn't recommend jumping into this as your first Spider-Woman comic. That's for sure.
Yeah, I felt like the description page did okay. Kind of explaining where I was. I wasn't lost like it would be in a Ten of Swords book, but I don't know. I just felt like not enough happened for a 100 issue.
Yeah.
They threw in some extra covers and all that, but you kind of expect this to be a big turning point, and it really isn't. It's more of the bad stuff still happening. Let's figure out why, and I mean, tease off a whole Captain Marvel not crossover, I guess, but guest starring appearance, but which isn't a surprise if you've seen the solicitations, but I guess I was just coming off the Fantastic Four 25, where it just felt like that was a start of something new. This kind of felt like, hey, we'll just put 100 on it, and it's 100, and I mean, it's 5 issues into a story, so it's not even like 25 issues in, you can kind of have a little reset. It's been a while, 2 years. It hasn't even been 6 months, but I mean, it was a good issue. It would have, only thing holding it back was just sort of a lack of reason to exist.
Yeah, no, I agree. It didn't feel like that, because you can go 2 different ways with a 100 issue. You can go, or any milestone issue. Right. It can be that big turning point in the story, and give you that kind of big wow moment, or it can be sort of a like tribute to the character and like have like the history and everything. And this one didn't, like you said, it didn't really play up to either one.
It was definitely just Spider-Woman number 5, which is fine. Those issues need to happen,
right?
But it's just not, it's not the pause to say, hey, let's look back at the history, or it's not a big new chapter. It's just the issue between 4 and 6.
Yeah. It did, instead of like that sort of B story and, those extra little stories on the end, what they did was they kind of continued the story, but in like 1-page increments, and then gave us some new covers, like you said. Again, some really amazing art in those in those covers and those few pages. So definitely check that out as well.
Okay. Moving on to the wonderful world of movies. Doctor Strange news, huh?
Yeah, Xochitl Gomez. Hopefully I pronounced that right. I'm pretty sure Xochitl Gomez has been cast in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. We don't know too many details about her role just yet, but exciting to see the cast grow. We know, this movie is going to be kind of crazy. We know Scarlet Witch will be involved. We think Doctor Strange is playing a big role in things moving forward. So who knows where this is going to go. But I'm excited.
I've heard rumors that it's going to be America Chavez. She's playing America Chavez. I don't know if that's true, but that's a character from a different multiverse.
Mm-hmm.
And, I just put the 2 and 2 together, right? Doctor Strange is in the next Spider-Man movie. I mean, according to the trades. Sam Raimi from the OG Spider-Man is doing Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness. There's all sorts of talk of eventually Spider-Man, the Spider-Man universe's kind of multiversing in sort of a weird live-action Spider-Verse movie. This is really exciting. And it all starts in WandaVision, which is months away.
Yeah.
I feel like as excited as I was for Black Widow, that sort of naturally felt like a step backwards. It probably won't be because Marvel, but obviously she's dead. So, how much forward looking do you think you're going to get? Now, I'm going to be surprised, but knowing that this is setting up the next era of Marvel, I am so stoked.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely it's nice to see some young talent added to the roster too, because you kind of want to refresh. You want to make sure you have these actors that are willing to be around for a while if you want to keep these movies going, which we absolutely want you to. So, it's definitely cool to see.
So, did you ever see the Simpsons movie?
I have not, actually.
Well, have you heard of Spider-Pig?
I've heard of Spider-Pig, yes, definitely.
So now we've got Spider-Cat. Spider-Cat does whatever a cat can.
Yeah, Insomniac Games released a video featuring Spider-Cat for the new Spider-Man Miles Morales game, the sort of spin-off from the very popular Marvel Spider-Man game from a few years back. This game looks amazing. Everybody's already completely on board, and now you introduce Spider-Cat, and people are just going crazy. So if you haven't checked out the video, you can see that up on Laughing Place right now. It's hilarious. It's a cat named Spider-Man that is affectionately being referred to as Spider-Cat right now. So definitely check out that video. And, if you're like me, you're definitely excited for this game because the first one was amazing. Who doesn't want more Miles Morales right now? And now Spider-Cat. Come on.
What was I going to say? Oh, well. Moving to the merchandise.
Yep. Pre-orders are live for this, the Marvel Legends series, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Captain America shield. This thing's awesome. It's Captain America's shield. Do they even need to market this at all? Hey, here's this shield. Buy it.
So I'm a big fan of the Marvel Hasbro Legends roleplay line. Not that I want to pretend I'm like Captain America. It was kind of cool to have the stuff, but I already have a Captain America shield, and unless it's a little different, but I don't know how many Captain America shields I need.
Fair. That's a fair point.
I mean, I'm all for, I could easily be talked into buying this again, but I'm trying not to be.
Well, for those of us who do not have Captain America shields, full-size Captain America shields already, there's this. You can pre-order this one right now, and that's a thing that I might be doing at some point pretty soon.
Yeah, I have Mjolnir. I have a lot. I have the Iron Gauntlet. I have the Infinity Gauntlet.
See, I just need more space to display all that stuff, and then I will have all that stuff as well.
Right? Yeah, that's the hard part. Is how many boxes of things do I need? That's not. So I guess we're going back to comics. The X-Men.
Yeah, we got some more information about Wolverine, Black, White, and Blood. It's filmmaker John Ridley making his Marvel Comics debut, which is exciting. That's a lot of fun. We also we've talked about this upcoming series before, and we saw some of the artwork. It's stunning. It's some of the best artwork I've seen in a comic in a while. So I'm excited to just see this one. This seems like one of those that it's going to give me a new background on my phone or tablet or whatever.
Yeah, good for your pick of the weeks, huh? Yeah, it's. I mean, I don't know what there's to say about it. You have a creative visionary. I mean, they usually do these books that are sort of outside the main continuity, so to speak. But sometimes that freedom allows them to tell a really good story. So, speaking of free of continuity,
so Maestro Warren Pax is going to reveal Maestro's rise to power. The Maestro series just started up. What was that? Maybe a month ago now.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep track of when we've read all these comics, to be honest. This is exciting. I really enjoyed that first issue. I think going back to that week, I believe that was my pick of the week. It was a very fun start to the introduction of this crazy character, which is basically an evil Hulk, which is definitely fun. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes from being Bruce Banner to the full-on crazy Maestro.
Yeah, I love Peter David, just as a storyteller. I mean, I remember reading his stuff in Disney Adventures magazine. So anytime he gets work, it's nice to see some of those classic guys from the 90s still kicking it. So a little too small for my wrists, but there's some junior Garmins coming out. It looks like Black Panther, and Iron Man. Yeah,
they're adjustable. You might be able to make these work. Pretty cool designs. And these are smartwatches from Garmin for kids, or kids at heart. So if you just want, a new Marvel accessory, there you go. Garmin has you covered if you're looking for a new smartwatch, a junior smartwatch, I should say.
Yeah, and they have some Disney ones too. So it's cool. I mean, get people active through Marvel. Last week we talked about some of their healthy initiatives, so seems on brand.
Yeah, they definitely have a theme going on lately with partnering up with Tough Mudder and Garmin for these smartwatches. So it's good to see.
And then this last thing, you're going to give me a little bit of context on.
Yeah. So, so today actually happens to be my 4-year wedding anniversary. So I just want to wish my wife a happy anniversary.
Does she have to watch the show?
You know what? I'll tell her to check this one out. So I wanted to share with you guys this image here. We did the what is now cliche superhero shirt underneath the tux for the wedding photos. I do want to point out, I made sure we did this right. There are only Marvel characters in there. You do not see Marvel and DC mixed together. This is strictly Marvel. So you got Daredevil, Spider-Man, Wolverine. You can see me in the middle there as Captain America. And I'm wearing that shirt right now as well. Then we got Iron Man, Cyclops, and Thor. And Thor, this wasn't even my doing, but he brought his own Mjolnir. So that was awesome too.
So that's how you knew he belonged in your wedding party, huh?
Exactly.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
I would, I guess next year you get to celebrate your Donald anniversary.
Yeah.
So let's see. So I would say that this week was kind of slowish in terms of Marvel news and things. Obviously, Disney just had a major rework, so
right.
So much news is going to happen. But we do have a new episode, or the final episode of Marvel Spider-Man Maximum Venom on Disney XD this week, and on Sunday. And then big comic issues coming up next week too. So, and hopefully we'll get a little bit more information about WandaVision and maybe Falcon and Winter Soldier and some other things coming up soon as well.
Yeah, I mean, the window is closing on information for WandaVision, right? Like we only have so much time left in this year. We got to get something soon.
Well, it's hard to imagine. We're basically 10 days or 9 days away from season 2 of Mandalorian.
Right.
It just feels like it's creeping up on me.
I also need to point out this past weekend, Hellstrom was released on Hulu, and we binged it over the weekend. It's fantastic. It is such a great show. I only wish they had contained it a little bit more because it is set up for a second season, and it doesn't look good in terms of potential second season, but definitely worth a watch. It's awesome. It's one of the best new shows I've seen in a while.
Well, in any case, thanks so much for joining us, and have a wonderful day.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.